What's up, everybody? It's Jason and Justin from the Three Geeks. We are joined by Bill Lobley. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Fantastic. I can't wait to talk to you. You've been in like some of the best video games of all time as
Um,
voices. And
yeah. Thank you. They're very fun. Very fun.
so I got to ask, how has the strikes in Hollywood affected you?
I don't care about the union. No. By the way, that was antimatter, Bill. You know what I mean? So that wasn't me. That's parallel universe, Bill. I would have had a Van Dyke like Spock had in Star Trek. You must. I love that you guys. You guys are gonna know these references. So. But anyway, no, we care deeply. I was out walking the line today, and it is hell. I mean, and it's not hell in terms like you're with your brothers and sisters, you know, and the union family, and we're all fighting for the same thing, and we feel like we're making headway. At least the world knows about it. But the hell part is that you have to explain stuff to people. It's like saying to your wife, "What's wrong?" And you have to say like, "Well, you never tell me you love me."
Mhm.
Oh, well, why would I do that? I mean, I love you. I don't have to tell you, do I? It's like, yes, you do. So I feel like we're just not getting the love. And sometimes that equates to profit. Sometimes it equates to respect, justice, solidarity. Now I'm like, well, that's, but yeah, so it's difficult. There are certain things under the contracts. Like, for instance, video games are considered, quote, unstruck, which means you can do them. So if I get a call for like a video game or an audition or a session or something, I can do it. Some animation, promos, commercials, not under theatrical contract. So if that helps a little bit, then so George Clooney's not working, but I can work some.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're noticing the difference. But we're out there, and we're the writers at the table right now. The writers in solidarity said to us, guys, we're not coming back till you're back in. So that remains to be seen if that's true. But yeah, so there's a lot of good feelings. So overall positive. People tell me I am happier when I'm done with a strike with a picket line. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. Like, why are you so happy? It's just great to be out there and doing something instead of sitting at home. And by the way, we did enough of that during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I was locked in this studio a long time, and then to come out and see people, and people really effectively you haven't seen in could be years for some people because we were locked away, and then home studios became so prevalent, and it's like everybody's got one now. I mean, some people are in closets, some people are out of the closet, but yeah, but it's great to be out and about. I just really wish it was for a different reason. So that's my thing.
Right.
So yeah,
So
I'm a union guy. So
yeah, you just mentioned home studios and kind of the prevalence of that, and that the pandemic kind of sparked that. Is that what sparked yours? As you were talking about
no.
off interview.
I was doing mine. I probably started mine 2014 or 2015 after
Cool.
being told probably 2 years before, Bill, my agent was like, you're not the kind of guy, it seems to me, who would want to lock himself in his studio unless there was a pandemic,
Yeah.
So she advised against it, at least one of the agents. And then it wasn't that much later that she said, have you thought about a home studio? So then it's like I just grabbed the hammer and came in. So yes, that was, and then then it's great. And you can, some days it's like there's an inch of snow on the ground in February. It's like I'm in just outside of New York City, and it's like I'm not gonna drive in. It's slippery and cold, and I'm hungover or whatever. So you don't necessarily you didn't have to go in. But there were days in the pandemic when people would say like, so how is it, man? I'm like, well, some days I would spend in the studio here anyway. So some days were exactly like it was, and I surface at 6:30 at night, drenched in sweat because there's not a lot of air in here. That's part of the audio motif is like, you shouldn't be able to breathe after a few hours. But yeah, and I come up and it's just like a regular day. And then other days when you realize you haven't seen people in months and months or years, and it was really hard. But it is a complete blessing, and I'm really grateful that it was built before we started. And then technology even caught up a little bit more with Zooms. Then you could see the people behind the other side of the glass. You could see them on Zoom, and yeah. So it did change, and the technology kind of like stepped up a little bit. Things like Source Connect. I don't know if you guys know about that. even StreamYard,
Yeah.
all that crazy stuff. So yeah, a very steep learning curve. It's like, and as slightly, secretly geeky as I may be, audio geek might not be one of them, although I am approaching audio geekdom because I know, because I just mentioned Source Connect and bandwidth. So,
You're getting there.
so
Yeah.
guilty.
I'll be Googling it later. But I have to ask, is there a movie or a TV show that you watched as a kid that made you say, I want to do this?
Oh yeah, Court Jester with Danny Kaye. I mean, first of all, that was like just one more thing. It's like you're always thirsty for something, and then at some point in high school, someone gives you tequila, and you're like, okay, I'm home. I've got all the proof I need. And unfortunately, it's 80 proof.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
But by the way, that's 2 drinking references. I want you to stop me after 3. But no, I'm fine, by the way. But yeah,
You're already home.
Yeah, thank you. But that's true. That's true. It's like I didn't put a bar in the studio, so it's like real good news. I did put a TV in. My wife said, "So it's an audio studio." I said, "Yeah, it's soundproof, double-walled insulation, mass-loaded vinyl. I got this guy mixer, blah blah blah." She said, "What's the TV for?" And I was like, It's like editing.
And good save.
She bought it.
Yeah.
But I watched the Court Jester. I don't know, when did you watch TV as a kid? It's like no one's around, you're not doing anything, your parents are out. It's like you're gonna watch a movie, and then in the New York area, it was Channel 9 or Channel 11 that would run all those old movies, maybe Channel 5, and there was Danny Kaye playing 2 different roles. And I don't know if you know the movie, but it is a keeper. And that just kind of solidified anything that I was thinking, and yeah, and it's just a dynamite movie. Really, really, probably one of my top 5. If I don't mention it in one of my top 5, someone has done some strange category, not comedies, So, but yeah, that'd be the one.
Did you get a chance to meet Danny Kaye?
Never. I almost had an audition. A friend of mine said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm auditioning. She said, "You want to do Danny Kaye and blah, blah, blah." At this point, I'm in New York, and like, "Well, where is?" She's like, "New Jersey." I'm like, "I'm not going to New Jersey." So proof again that I'm a real New Yorker. I'm not going to New Jersey.
Say, yeah.
But yeah, I would have played Danny Kaye in what was going to be I'm sure it would have come in to, New York at some point. And yeah, do I regret it? I won't say, but yeah, I never got to meet him. You saw him on the Cosby Show and things like that. But yeah, really one of my favorites because Danny Kaye. It's like, why do you think Cary Grant is suave? It's like, for the same reason I think Danny Kaye is funny, because he is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So yeah, awesome. Definitely in the category of like my top 5 like actors too, and not all.
I gotta ask this: was the puppeteering before you got into voice acting, or was it during?
I really think it coincided, because the way that I got to starting puppeteering, there was an animation technique in the 60s called aniforms. I don't know if you remember this. This is even before my time, but a show called Winky Dink. It's like, I know it sounds like kiddie porn, but it wasn't. But yeah, it was on the screen. It was like this cartoon character that would like talk to kids, but it was an odd kind of line drawing, and but apparently they were involved with that, so they started to pioneer this live animation technique where you're basically puppeteering, but the technology is such that it appears as a line drawing, black outline, on like the old, pen and ink stuff, but it looked like a cartoon. Anyway, I was looking through Backstage one day, and the ad was, Backstage was like the trade paper, and I would have to drive in. My family was in New Jersey at that point, and I was born in Bronxville, then they moved out to New Jersey, and I would drive in an hour and a half just to get this one newsstand on 48th Street in Manhattan to get my copy of Backstage. I know from being a New Yorker, there's newsstands all over the city. For some reason, I thought, like, I'm going to 48th Street. Why not drive into Midtown? So and I'd get my paper from this blind guy named Eddie, and I did pay him. I said, "Eddie, a quarter's on the counter." No, but it's like, where's the damn quarter? So and then I would come back and I'd pour through it. And then at one point, I think at that point I'd moved to Queens, and there was an ad for talented, humorous young men, and I figured, well, 2 out of 3.
Yeah, right there.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, and you wind up. We were like trained with, to use this puppet and then do trade shows, industrial. I have a friend that I did it with. He's retired in Maine now, but he was one of the senior guys, and he said the best thing about it was, he goes, it was vaudeville. We were doing 6 or 7 shows a day, every couple hours, every 45 minutes, whatever the client wanted, and we're just doing all the bits. And he said it's vaudeville. You don't understand it. This is what the comics did. They're in the theater all day just doing the bits over and over and honing them, and there was writing involved with that. And then as I got into that, it was actually my wife who I met my wife. It was a friend of mine. I met my wife through this thing called Groundlings, which is a big LA improv company. They're still around. Pee Wee Herman was a groundling. And they moved east to New York. And this other friend of mine said, you should try that. Oh, well, what is it? She goes, well, it's improv. I was like, what? I think I know what that is, and started doing it, loved it. So now I'm doing cartoon characters and characters. I'm traveling. I'm taking classes with them. You get into the performing company, but along the road, one of my teachers was my future wife. so, yeah, it's like, well, this is working out. It's like I got a new career thing and a wife. So definitely a good move. But then it started from there. And then from doing improv, one of the girls, who probably someone you should talk to, her name is Lori Allen. She's the voice of Pearl on SpongeBob, and
awesome.
she does Family Guy, and she was just killing it in commercials. Not so much animation at that point, but she was like, anyway, she brought one of her agents to one of our live shows, and they jumped me. And I'm not bragging. They did. It's like, you have to come sign with us. And then I started doing commercials. And then from there, then commercials, animation, on camera stuff. But yeah, so it was an interesting road. It wasn't necessarily that curvy, one thing led to another, but it was, a lot of blessings along the way, put it that way. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, the puppets were frickin', talk about laughing your ass off all day. Puppeteers are funny. Puppeteers are very funny.
That's
very
awesome.
funny people.
So you worked on like one of my favorite TV shows as a kid growing up, Celebrity Deathmatch. Was that fun? Do you have a lot of fun memories with that?
Oh my God!
Well, it just cracked me up as a kid. Like that was my favorite thing.
First of all, if you look at IMDb, it's got me listed as like
it does.
2, but I use pseudonyms because at that point it was MTV was weird. They wouldn't pay and they weren't necessarily union. But a lot of people did the show because it's like, I got to do the show. This is great. So, but yeah, so I'm listed as, I think, what was my name? It was Colin A. Favor. Get it? Colin A. Favor. And then another pseudonym was, my first son was just born and his name was Sam. So I made it Seamus Dodd, Sam's dad, Seamus dad. So, awesome. So I did a couple like that, and then I said, well, use my name, whatever. So if you look at IMDb, there's a couple, but it's like you would call up on the phone to audition. Hey, you're going to do Steven Tyler. It's like, oh, really? You just got to scream, and just a lot. Can you do Kramer? And you're like, then you do, I think I might have done Jerry Seinfeld. I did so many. I did Warren Beatty once. What does Warren Beatty sound like? You got to do better. We got to do better. So yeah, so a lot. So, but they were just really fun to do. The guys were great. I can't think of the guy's name, but the funny story. One time I was in there walking around. You record your stuff. Maybe you did 2 or 3 voices, and then of course you get your arm ripped off. Whoever it is has to scream. I might have done Owen Wilson screaming, "Ow!" But I don't remember. But so I'm walking around. I'm like, I'm gonna get some water. And I walked by this one room, almost like a conference, not a conference room, like an empty room. And it was just like a scrum of people. You play rugby, it's like a huddle.
Yeah.
But there's a scrum of people, and I keep walking by this room. Then I went to the bathroom and walked by again. I'm like, what the hell is going on? They're probably making a human sacrifice. It's like to the MTV gods, like Bob Pittman's bodies. And so finally, I walked by and I just looked. And as I looked, someone felt me looking and the little crowd of people parted, and there in the center of the room was this little teeny ring, about this big, with the 2 figurines on it. It was stop motion. So the
That's
camera was
awesome.
there, and they were like moving it. So this is like, there's no CGI at this point. So they are doing like flat out move the little animated clay characters, claymation, stop motion. It was unbelievable. I think they might have added the mouths in or something. I'm not sure if they did or not. What we in the trade call lip flaps. But how you doing there, lip flaps? So, it's like the audio guys like just kind of roasting each other. Hey, here comes lip flaps. So anyway, but yeah, so I'm like, oh my God, I saw the magic. I saw the wizard behind the curtain. You know what I mean? And then it was very clear that I should not have been there. So I said, well, I'm doing voices for the thing. I'm running, So, but yeah, Celebrity Deathmatch that was a pisser too. And then they brought it back. They did it for a little while. It stopped, and they brought it back again. I think I was in both. I might have started to use my real name at a certain point, or change the pseudonym. I don't know. But yeah, really fun.
For the different voices, was it hard? Kind of, because I assume you did multiple voices in one day. Is it hard bouncing back and forth, or is that just
it really depends. I mean, sometimes and I'm not saying it's like a circus trick. It's like, well, the secret is it's like there's another hand in your pants. It's like, what's that hand? It's like, that's not mine. That's and this one with a. So it's like you gotta love the camera. You gotta love the single camera. But no, it was like there was sometimes it's like it's required. You got a crazy character that gets some kind of alien abduction, and he goes from one to the other. But it would depend on how, I guess, on the situation. So in some respects, the answer would be no, and some it's like, well, that's a little trickier. You're going from Welsh to Scottish, or like Basque Spanish to French, and you're like, boy, we're on the border here. It's like Upper Minnesota and Canada, Windsor, Canada, so it's it's really and Detroit. It's like you're really close, kind of. So it can be hard, or it's all based on the situation, I think.
Sure. What you just said kind of sparked a different kind of thought in my head around. Do you have to be careful around, like, I don't know if you smoke or not, but like I know like certain things you do can affect your voice and your vocal cord. Like, are you very cognizant of that? Is it just like I can't do it, or like, hey, I want to be have more whiskey in my voice later in life? Like, you know what I mean?
It's really interesting. When I was first doing the cartoon character, we were the guys that were doing the cartoon. Who's just kind of a smart aleck, kind of a wise guy, talk like this all the time. Hey there, buddy. That's the worst toilet technology I've ever seen in my life. It's never gonna flush. And the speaker would be like, well, it's interesting you brought that up. Like a devil's advocate thing. We have a new toilet technology. So, sometimes they'd be like, okay, we need some guys to do some voiceovers for like the Candids module, or this thing. So come in, and it's like the guys that are doing the the Continental Railroad is meeting, and we need this golden spike, and all that stuff. So they bring just voice actors in, but also I'd be like, guys, like, well, you're on staff, come on in. So, but I went there once, and they said, Bill, how about somebody older? And I said, oh, I did something a little bit older. And the technician says, it wasn't bad, kid. He goes, but I got a suggestion for you. I said, what? He goes, bourbon and cigarettes. And I'm like, I'm 25, and I'm like, well, I don't know about that. It's like I'm just legal 4 years ago, but yeah. So, but I think like an athlete in a way, if I could just ingratiate myself to the world of voice actors, if the training is right, you can do it. And then some people you hear like they're ordering at a restaurant, you hear like, my wife and I are going to have the Chardonnay. And you're like, the room is shaking, and you're grabbing your glass. Like, this is water, by the way. So this is not alcohol. This is
number 3.
My adult swim glass. I don't know if you can see that. But awesome. But yeah, but it's like the room is shaking. This guy's talking, and then he's like, yes, I've always wanted to get into voiceovers, but he talks like that all the time. Character people are a little bit different. And some
Sure.
character guys, I worked with Billy West once, and he's just like a regular guy. It's like he sounds just like a regular guy, and then he does all this stuff. So yeah, I mean, but preparing for something like that, I guess it really depends. I mean, there's been things that I've recorded very early in the morning that it's like,
Yeah.
Bill, it's kind of like a movie trailer guy. I'm like, well, that's good, in a world, So it's like suddenly it's like it's a good time in the morning to be doing that. But a funny thing is when you're doing video games, they always save the screaming. Usually most video game characters at some point have to die, especially the bad guys. So sometimes it's like in your contract, or your agent rips him a new one and says, if you make him scream, he has 2 things after this. He's done with you at 2:30. If you make him scream, I'm coming after you. So let's say, well, can you do something at 4? It's like, okay, end of the day. And then even then at the end of the session, they'll do your screaming. Because, those people do Call of Duty. I've talked to some of those guys, and they're like, be prepared to yell, Bill, because you scream your get over, Corbin. You're screaming all the time. So yeah, but you got to protect yourself.
Yeah.
So in that respect, also like an athlete, it's like if you're gonna run the big 5K on Saturday, don't do a 6K on Friday. Do you know what I mean? It's what are you, an idiot?
Yeah.
Take a break.
Yeah.
Rest. So but that's also that'd be training. I don't know where you get that training. I did take singing lessons for a show I was in once, because I felt like the character was a better singer than me, and I'm like, I better take singing lessons, because so that's what I did. And then you learn even more about how important proper breathing is, and not straining yourself. So yeah, there's a lot of technique, but you meet people that are just so gifted, either just talking in their regular voices, or just great character guys. Like, I never went to school for that. It's like, all right.
That makes sense. So real quick, I was wondering if how much autonomy do you have, or how much creative freedom do you have in like the voice selection, and maybe some of like even maybe what you're saying in a scene? Like, do you, especially for like maybe like C-Lab, where you're in the show for like an extended period of time, or like, do you get any type of like call out, you know what I mean? Or
C-Lab, as actually before you even said it, the example I was going to bring up for C-Lab was that I think they heard whatever I auditioned for. And it was Adam Reed and Matt Thompson, and in 2000, whatever year it was, and we went in, and they weren't quite sure, what Sparks was going to sound like, and they were like, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, tell me about him," and you talk a little bit about him, and well, he's a little sarcastic, and we tried a bunch of things. And then I remembered a guy that I had worked with was like the king of sarcasm, like, Thomas Edison light bulb, this guy, sarcasm. So, and he always, Bill, why do we have to run? So he was like that. I'm like, well, a little bit low key. So I started doing that kind of thing. And then it just became like, Skip, why don't we eat babies? So, so whatever, and then he could yell. So that's the first part of the question. The second would be like, in terms of autonomy, and like, even in that framework, just like you, if someone says, can you imitate Justin? They'd imitate you. It's like, can you do Justin, when he's angry? It's like, Justin, when he's angry, he completely, I have one of my relatives, a brother-in-law, he's saying, it's kind of got a little bit of a higher voice, but whenever he gets more upset, his voice gets a little bit higher. But and most people do. You have Broderick Crawford, like, hey, come on over here. It's like, so, and then other people, when they get mad, they get really deep. It's like, I'm going to kill you. And then it's like, no, I apologize. Oh, that's okay. I was really mad at you for a second. But yeah. So yeah, you do have a lot, and if you work on a show for a while, they really get to trust you. The good news is when they start like writing for the character and you. I probably think the original, like Ted Knight when he was doing Mary Tyler Moore, who knows what, I would love to see like that audition, and they say that's the guy, and then they do a couple of episodes. It's like, oh when he does this, it's really good. When he gets confused and thinks he's not confused, it's really good, And they start writing that, and he becomes like that Baxter, and then just grows from there. And I think any series would have that, But yeah, sometimes the people, especially in commercials, sometimes people want things very, very specific. But most times, if the director's any kind of director, he's going to be like, try one your way. That was the best thing about C-Lab, because we do it. And as we would say, and I think I mentioned this fairly recently with something I was talking about, it was funny on the page. You read the script and you're laughing. And it's like, this is great. And then, they get through a couple of takes and everything. And they go, all right, anything you want to do with that? And you're like, oh, yeah. So that's a confident writer director. When you get that, it's like, this is great. It's like, I love this guy. So yeah, that's what I think. That's one of the reasons C-Lab, they were so freewheeling, and it just totally shows. When they still hold up. They're still on one of the networks, I think.
I have friends that were obsessed with C-Lab. But what's the biggest difference between doing a show like that or doing a video game? Because like games like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead and LA Noire, you are part of all of those, are very vast.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like they're not linear. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you get up in the morning, and you're going to catch the bus. Like I get up in the morning, have my coffee, catch the bus, go into the city or wherever you go. I don't know if it's Canton or Dayton or Columbus or wherever the hell you guys are. But anyway, what city are you in, by the way?
Columbus.
Yeah,
Okay.
Columbus.
But anyway, you get up in the morning, have your coffee, you're going to catch the bus, you go out and you get up coffee's not working. It's like, oh crap. All right, I'm going to have tea, and then you say, I'm going to route and catch the bus. And it's like, the bus is late, I got to take the train. So this defines what happens with a video game. What if so-and-so? Now they always give you choices if it's like an RPG, or something, and off you go into a different world. So it serves two purposes. You never know what's going to happen, and also makes you want to play it again. It really is brilliant. But the construction of the worlds, and the possible outcomes, I think that's what makes the genre just really so different and fascinating, and why young men love it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, ladies too. But it's like when I would sign NDAs for video games, they'd be like, all right, now listen, Bill. They'd like kind of pull me aside and say, listen here. You don't talk to anybody about this. You don't post about it. You don't talk about it. You don't write about it. You don't have conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'd stop and they'd say, I know you got kids. I know you got boys, especially the teenage boys. It's like the weak link. It's like, no, don't tell them. So, but the worlds are vast, and the really big games, like I know BioShock was like one of those huge world games. The outcomes are always different. So when you're recording, it's not just like however many pages of dialogue would be in a 22-minute script for like C-Lab. It's like pages and pages, and when this happens, and then you have to ask, because sometimes they're not telling you everything. In this one, he takes the drug himself, it's like, and then he goes crazy, and then he gets killed early, or so it's always different, but you have to cover all that, and then they do downloadable content, and then it's like, let's do some more, some more pathways, so more
That's
exit
awesome.
ramps, I guess is a better way to put it.
Were you
Speaking,
fans?
okay, sorry.
Hey, one at a time. No,
I know. So many
Go
questions.
ahead, Justin. Go ahead.
No. We talked about screaming, and I know how much screaming is in Earth Defense Force. Like, was your voice just like gone, or like, did you have to scream a lot for that? Because that seems like of the games I've played in that genre, all the characters are screaming like all the time. It felt like.
Yeah, I mean, it can be really rough. I mean, I did animals for the zoo thing. I don't know if it's on IMDb, but it was like a zoo thing, and you had to do like angry gorillas, and it was like, "You're right." It's like, can we do the lion? I'm like, what? So the roaring lion has to scream. It's like, what? We're really layering a lot of pain on this thing. So, but yeah, Defense Force. That was one that really stands out as a lot of yelling was the Darkness, where I played this character Bragg, who was so bad. It was awful. So just the things that I had to say, I was like, what? I was like, I have kids. But
that is a good game though.
Yeah. So Bragg is so evil. But hey, Jackie. So but there had to be like, it seemed like I was doing it for an hour where he was not just shouting and taunting whoever it was, Jackie, I think his name was. He was doing it across a warehouse. Like he had like someone with a gun to their head, It's like, hey, Jackie, I got your girlfriend, come out wherever you want, and it was just, I'm watching the levels in here. It's like, Bill, take it easy. It's like I would show you a thing. It's just like there's a whole mixer area over here. And I'm the engineer, you're looking at him. But yeah, and then you're screaming across, and like, no, and they'll be like, it's big. Now it's a really big warehouse. I'm like, really? That's when your agent comes on the phone and says, you can't do that to him again, even though it's generally fine. But yeah, some of the, and then when I mentioned that to one of the Call of Duty guys, and he was like, he was directing, he goes, we do make people scream a lot. So yeah, but it is a thing, and but it'd be like a singer. It's like, in a sense, you kind of got to know how to sing and control your voice and everything. My younger son was a theater major, and he's quite a good singer. And yeah, that all that training, you hear people pushing themselves, and as someone who like an actor or a singer, the singers also be like, he's pushing it. That's not going to be good for him, So I guess you do have to be careful too. And no, but that's all that, that instrument stuff,
Sure. But yeah, let's talk about the Old Republic, Jason, because I heard a Star Wars question coming out of your mouth before I.
Yes. So I got a final series of questions. First off, were you a Star Wars fan?
Well, first of all, was I a Star Wars, pardon the expression, Star Wars nerd? No, but if you don't watch episode 4 and be a convert, I am. And now it's like, even if you always get the people like, Rogue One was horrible, I won't watch it. It's like, you're an idiot, because I get so swept up in the whole, really, it's good versus evil. It's cowboys and Indians, Native Americans. You know what I mean? It is like, it is good and evil, and all the battles and all the B movie, that feel of these great adventures. And I can't get enough of it. So when it came out, we saw it, and without dating myself, because that's just sick. People who date themselves, they call them self-shippers now. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Okay, that's like, that wasn't on my list. She mails her own packages. What does that mean? I mail my own packages.
She works at FedEx.
I'm a self-shipper. It's like, no, you're not a self-shipper. But anyway, yeah, we went to the theater and saw it, and it was like, what did I just see? And then I became a film major. And then, you're doing that and you're seeing that. So, I was always making movies in the backyard. We'd blow up tanks in slow motion with firecrackers, that kind of thing. And then you give it a title, you put the title cards on, and then you're like the live guys running around, and then you run off screen, and then you have like little army men going up to the tanks. It's like, then you see what George Lucas is doing with like, basically fishing wire and exploding models. I'm like, he's a film god. And now it's just the CGI that comes in is ridiculous. But yeah, so yeah, I love the series. I love the whole conceit, and everywhere it's gone. And was I an Anakin Skywalker fan, the adult version? No, but but I am highly forgiving of something that needs very little forgiveness.
He was really, I thought he did Anakin very well in Obi-Wan. I'm glad he got that little chance at redemption. But what was it like?
That's a good point. I just think he matured into it.
Yeah. What was it like getting the call to do the Old Republic? And I got to ask, because I know Luke, I don't know how it is with the other video games, but was there a lot of NDAs and stuff related to the video games?
I'm saying always, there often is. And this is like, what do you think? But talk about a giant game. But most people I talk to, I did TOR. So you did TOR, I did TOR. So yeah, it was, and for me, people bringing that up now, and I might have recorded 2 days on that, and I think I did 2 or 3 characters. Can't think of their names. But you probably know. But it was really fun. But you have so much. You have so much catching up to do when they're adding. Well, this is a different universe in this. Mm-hmm. Well, what you say? What part of the movie is this? Like, it's not in the movie. It's like, this is the old. It's like, but they have the amazing thing is, one, the writers certainly know it. The writers all know what the history is and where it goes from, and like even with the Mandalorian, it's like just amazing. It's like, what is Jon Favreau doing? He's got to be a Star Wars geek, right? But if you don't know it, you have to ask a ton of questions. Okay, but so who is that? Is that the hero? Yes, Bill, that's the hero. Okay, got it. And this guy, what does he look like? Well, we have a rendering, but you can't tell anybody. It's like, well, he's got like a half a head and then a hose coming out and then it wraps around his neck, So, but yeah, so that was, NDAs, yes, and frequently. And, even if someone interviews me for something, I'm like, tell us what you got coming up. You're like, I can't, I can't tell you. And now with the strike, it's like, you can't promote, you can't have something that's coming out, I think September. Well, one's September 22nd. One is really soon. I can't talk about them. It's like, I want to talk about them because they're great projects, but it's like, you can't promote anything theatrical right now. It's like, wow. Yet you can do conventions, but at a convention, when you're signing stuff, you can't talk about anything theatrical. Or so yeah, it's really weird. The contracts are so vast with SAG. After it's like covered, not covered, struck, unstruck, interim agreement, all that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I saw that, you can't talk about stuff. So me and my friends were all like, let's stop watching our streaming services. Let's cancel them all. And then I read on Twitter and all the actors were like, no, don't cancel your
streaming
Don't do that.
It's like they're paying something.
You're just going to prove the streaming services right in what they're trying to pay us. So we're like, okay, we're going to keep our streaming services.
Yeah. It's like some people said, like, don't. If I just worked on something recently, and I almost said it. It was a guy. It was an actor who's doing a movie. Anyway, he's directing it, and he actually signed the interim agreement, which means I probably could talk about it. So, and some people were saying, like, I think Sarah Silverman was like, no inter agreements, no quarter asked, none given. We do not. They get nothing. But the idea is, the way I like to think of it is like, you go to a restaurant and you said, I'd like your seafood special, and you get a can of tuna fish without the can opener. And then the guy at the next table's got like lobster. And you're like, how did he get lobster? And they're like, well, he signed the interim agreement. He signed the seafood agreement. So in other words, that makes me say, like, well, I want lobster. So it's like, I'm going to sign that agreement. So that's the thinking. It's like, no, we want people to say it can all be yours. Just sign on. So yeah, it's a difficult time. And again, coming out of the pandemic, it's like, are we really going to go on strike? And then you read like why. It's like, yeah, we really should do that.
So the thing that really like put it in perspective for me is the show Suits just hit Netflix. It's like the #1 streaming show ever, and like nobody's getting paid for it except for maybe Netflix. And that just blew my mind.
Yeah, it is. It's sad, and I guess the main issue, to kind of get into the negotiation weeds, is that they may say, yeah, you're going to get this percentage, and it's a fair percentage. And everyone's like, great, and they say, just let me see the books, and they're like, I'm not going to show you the books. It's like, we made $40 million this month. Here's $5 million. It's like, oof. Wait. So, well, I mean, we don't know what we made, but here's your cut. It's like, it's the other way around. So, yeah, people say, and of course, AI, which really, there are people who are like, look, I do a lot of video games, not really concerned about the theatrical stuff. It's like, do you realize that when you go into a recording booth and you've done like all of these different, permutations of what's going to happen in a big platform game, it's like they have so much of your sound. They could probably and then they get panicked. Well, you think they would do that? It's like, I'm not saying they would do it, but I wouldn't put it past them. So
you're saving them money.
Yeah,
it's a software thing. Yeah.
But it's like the AI thing is like, it's frightening for a lot of people. So
yeah.
But that's one of that's where we're are we going to die on this hill? I don't know, but I would like to walk down with a partner. You know what I mean? It's like, let's hold hands and be kind to each other so we both don't die on this hill. So, yeah, but I was out on the picket line today, and we have a very strong presence, and ain't no one getting tired yet, which is which is really good. We did the commercial strike in 2000, and it was months, and we're like, this is really tiring. But right now, no, everyone is really committed, which is good. You need it,
Yeah, I'll thank you so much for coming on. This is one of the most fun interviews we've had in a long time.
Yeah, anytime. Listen. At a time when I can talk about more stuff, I would love that. But yeah, you guys are great. So it's always good because I was like, I always felt like, I grew up as like a little bit of a geek, but I always feel that, all the good people are geeks. You know what I mean? It's like I know there's people who are annoying, but just like there's an art to it because there's always an expertise. Anybody who's a geek at anything has a little shade of like expertise and art, and sometimes that blossoms, like witness Bill Gates. You know what I mean? It's like it's a geek. So yeah, and yeah, I was not a gigantic strapping high schooler. Let's just say I was a little slighter, but not in spirit. And but yeah, so I that 3 geeks. I'm like, I know we only actually, I guess technically we have 3 on right now.
We nailed it. Yeah, we nailed it.
Yeah, but I like it when who is Mike, and is there one more?
Max.
Yeah, Max. Yep.
So anyway, but yeah, so yeah, this is great. You guys are terrific, and I look forward to more of the 3 Geeks podcast.
Yeah, awesome. Where can everybody find you online, Bill?
Online. Well, let's see. Certain assistants and agents tell me that I need a new website, but that's BillLobley.com. Bill, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't have time to do that. So it's like, I did GoDaddy. It's fine. They're like, it's not fine. So BillLobley.com. But socials, Instagram is at @BLobley, LOBLEY, and Twitter is at Bill Lobley, BILLLOBLEY, a lot of L's. And then also I do locals too. So locals is something that's more specialized. I think their idea is that you whatever you want. There's no censorship, and I don't mean dirty stuff. I mean, it's not OnlyFans. I don't have one of those yet, but ideologically, it's like, catch me on OnlyFans. Let me just get out of this tunic. It's like the Jeffrey Toobin 3 Geeks podcast, but yeah, it's like, careful. It's like, activate zoom lens now. So
no.
It's like, but yeah, and yeah, so yeah, Instagram B Lobley, Twitter at Bill Lobley, and then locals. It's just look me up; it'll be there, or just Google me. You'll find me, I think, eventually. But I'm out there. I try and post as much as I can because that's all part of it. It's all part of marketing and branding, and yay.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Awesome. I'll be in touch. I want to get you on our live show so you can meet Max and Mike. But yeah,
that's fun. The live stuff is definitely fun. So
hit that like, hit that subscribe, follow us at 3 Geeks Podcast. We'll catch you next time.